Now, the Cubbington Pear in Warwickshire was voted the best tree in England in 2015, but it's no more because it has been cut down to make way for the new HS2 railway. Protesters are furious, as you can imagine. More than 40 ancient woodlands are affected by the project, but HS2 are sticking up for their environmental record, saying they are, in their words, translocating the soil from those woodlands to other places. Coppice stools, saplings and bulbs are replanted. Bat boxes, reptile banks and ponds may be installed. But experts question whether you can actually move an ecosystem, and the tree itself has been cut down. If you knew and admired the Cubbington Pear, which is just north, I think, of Royal Leamington Spa in Warwickshire, we'd love to hear from you. Maybe your heart breaks for the ancient woodland that is having to make way for the 21st century railway. Or perhaps you say, no, unfortunate this, but there is always a price for progress. Claire Marshall, BBC Environment correspondent, joins us. So this was quite a tree, Claire.
It was quite a tree, kind of 250 years old. I mean, that's been around for a long time, but it's really nuanced, this argument. So it's not just about cutting something down to make way for a high-speed line. It's actually, HS2 said they've taken cuttings from the tree and they've got kind of several dozen saplings that they've planted. And so you've got the DNA from this tree living on. And at the end of the day, it's kind of, well, what do you value? What's the judgment? Is that good enough that you lose an old tree with everything it supports? It supports thousands of organisms in the soil and in it, sort of birds, and then you've got insects living inside the trunk and that kind of thing. So that goes, but you are going to get new saplings. Is that good enough? Does that all balance out? So it's a real judgment.
Could they not just take the whole tree, lock, stock and barrel, and move it?
Well, they did look at that. And actually, really interestingly, James Wong on Twitter a couple of weeks ago tweeted something from Singapore, amazing bit of video where they're actually digging up the entire, sort of a huge tree, much bigger than the Cubbington Pear. But it costs an absolute fortune. And they say they looked into it and it wasn't cost effective. The heartbreaking thing about the Cubbington Pear is it really wasn't sort of right in the centre of the line. It was just on the very edge of it. So that's kind of one of the byproducts. Some of these things have been cut down, not even so that with a train to be kind of running through it. It's kind of for side roads and also while other works being carried on. But like you're saying, the whole concept of translocation is a really interesting one because it's quite confusing. I've had loads of people getting in touch saying, what does that mean? Is that you're moving the whole wood? And actually, it used to be used to describe kind of taking a single species and saving a single species. But now it's being used kind of really controversially to take a whole ecosystem somewhere else. And what I found out looking into it for a while is that ecologists just don't think you can do that. So should it be being used as a justification? That's the big debate, really.
And also where it's being translocated to. Does it stay in Warwickshire or is it going to Wales or what?
No, there are guidelines. It's got to be taken kind of right next door to the original ancient wood, and the rules are that you can only kind of handle it a certain number of times, and they divide up the ancient wood into sections, and they say they put the soil back down in the same place, and then they put what they call features in at certain intervals, which also sounds really odd. So they kind of put like a sapling or a bit of dead wood at intervals, and that kind of, to me, sort of says it all. You're losing something that's, some of these can be up to 1,000 years old. So you're losing that. You are gaining something else, but at the end of the day, it's not the same, and you are getting a high speed line. So it's just a kind of it's a really confusing kind of judgment. I think what I found out is just the very term. Translocation seems to kind of, people sort of think, oh, the wood's moving, it's not so bad. That sounds fine, but at the end of the day, it's not. It's pretty much going.
Let me just read the HS2 statement. They say all leading wildlife organisations agree that climate change is the biggest future threat to wildlife and habitats in the UK. By providing a cleaner, greener way to travel, HS2 will help cut the number of cars and lorries on our roads, cut demand for flights, help the country's fight against climate change. We'd urge environmental groups to help us in getting people out of their cars, off planes and onto low-carbon, high-speed rail. So that's their counter-argument, and that would do for the Cubbington Pear.
Yeah, again, that's almost a kind of whole separate bit of it. I mean, certainly the story that we're looking at today is really specific to how you treat these old places, and it's how clear you make it to everybody that you are losing them. So no one's kind of lying or doing anything illegal or anything. It's all been passed by Parliament, but it's kind of making it obvious and clear. So in the document, there's an ancient woodland strategy which is used to govern everything that's being done. And I've read that strategy, and in no way does it actually make it very clear that no research has been done into this that shows it works. It's offered as the kind of first method of how to compensate for losing ancient woodlands. So it's as if it's a kind of thing, and it's done, and that's the way you do it. But I've just spoken to a whole bunch of ecologists who just say that it essentially has not been proven, and the very what you're doing. So you're digging up an ancient wood, and you've got these. It's not just about the trees, to be honest. A lot of ecologists say they're kind of just one bit. It's all the fungi underneath the soil. It's really complex, and once you dig that up, you break apart what you're trying to save. So you do get something else. They are planting, they say, 7 million new saplings. They're doing a lot. They're doing a lot of mitigation, but it's about you don't get the same thing. And that word is some people find confusing.
Okay.
And it's just whether you think the Cubbington pear is worth kind of losing if you get other saplings from it. And that's a point of view.
Thank you very much, Claire Marshall, BBC Environment correspondent. Nikki Jones is from the Stop HS2 campaign. I think I can guess your view on this, Nikki.
I think you probably can, yes.
Because you want to save the Cubbington pear, do you?
The Cubbington pear has become an icon for our campaign, really. It stood about 50 metres separate from South Cubbington Woods, so it was a local landmark. People used to watch it through the seasons. It had blossom in the spring. It was green throughout the summer. It had pears in autumn, and it used to turn the most beautiful colours thereafter. But it's more that it's become an icon for the campaign rather than all about that single tree. Beautiful though it was.
But the tree's gone now, right? It was cut down.
It was cut down on Wednesday, yes, absolutely.
And did you watch it being cut down?
I did, yes, very sadly. And there were tears. There were very real tears. We are in a global pandemic. Many people have sought and found solace in local green spaces. So you can just imagine the trauma, the very real trauma that is being felt by local people as they watch the woodland being destroyed in front of their eyes on a daily basis.
Did anyone try to intervene when it was cut down?
No, we didn't. It's fenced off with Harris fencing and everything. We just tried to film it and bear witness and, to pay our respects as it was felled, yeah.
And did you make the argument that this translocation plan that they keep going on about should include the whole tree? They should take the whole thing and move it?
I'm not sure that the pear tree itself was suitable for moving. It was very, very old, and I'm not sure it would have survived that. But the whole principle of translocation is flawed, and I'm afraid the way they go on about it is just self-placating, really. It's never been proven to work, and the soil that they're putting it on was agricultural soil that has been subjected to all the usual dressings and chemicals, and the ancient woodland will not grow there. You can't grow an ancient woodland. It's something that's evolved over thousands of years.
I guess that by definition is true, yeah. But is it not worth it? Because the HS2 idea is you put people on trains and you get them off cars, and we know that the exhaust of a car is a bad thing. And that's so their mission, they say, is a good one.
Yes, and their statement, I just want to point out how misleading their statement is. When they say that all the wildlife NGOs say that the climate and ecological emergency is the biggest thing we're facing today, that's absolutely true. But to then go on and suggest that HS2 is the answer to this is completely wrong and misleading.
Okay.
The carbon footprint of it won't be paid back for over 120 years. It doesn't stop to pick up passengers. It won't get people out of their cars. The business case is shot to pieces. People's lives have changed. Nobody's commuting long distances. The government has to listen. We cannot keep going on and saying one more project, one more project. Our wildlife is in a huge crisis. We have extinction going on at a rate that's never been seen before. And we just have to stop and take stock and have a complete rethink of what we're doing.
Thank you very much, Nikki Jones from the Stop HS2 campaign, who watched as the Cubbington Pear was cut down. HS2, by the way, can't come on the show. They gave us the statement that I read out earlier, but they won't come here in person.